the Pulverulenta have definitely coppiced well. Good growth, at least half a metre on some of these shoots, and my feeling is that those that I didn't cut back that are still healthy are now a bit too spindly and straggly to withstand any winter gales, even a moderate winter gale. So I'm going to cut these back. Always saddening to cut down trees, especially as many of these Pulverulenta have once again produced copious quantities of flower buds just developing. So the bees and I are going to miss out on flowers next year. Actually looks as though some of these are getting ready to flower now, which is doubly disappointing. Though, as I say, I very much doubt if any of these would have survived even a moderate winter gale here in Ireland. So they were coming down anyway, and I'll get another couple of bags of firewood. Three and a half bags of leaves and twigs, you say, and indeed I have been collecting all the twigs. They burn just as well as logs. They'll burn faster, so you just turn down the oxygen a bit, and all those leaves are full of eucalyptus oil, and I guarantee I won't have to buy any firelighters. I've finished cutting back the willow and clearing this area. I want to touch on one specific aspect of the willow later on. I've replanted with regnans as I'd planned, and ovata, swamp gum, and added a few more camphora. It has been quite heavy rain recently here, and this area does get boggy. So all of these, regnans, ovata, camphora, are all fabulous for growing in swampy, boggy, wet ground. After Stormbara, I got around 10 bags of high quality eucalyptus firewood, mostly Viminialis. This year I'm going to get around 30 bags of firewood, and I'd say probably around a third of that's going to be from the willow that I cut back when I cleared the area down there for planting more eucalyptus. It's been about 3 weeks since I cut back the willow, and I kept and weighed this log at the time when it was freshly cut, and it was 2050 grams. I wrote it in incorrectly, but it was definitely 2050 grams. So now 3 weeks later it weighs 1500 grams, so it's lost 550 grams of weight. So that's the equivalent of 550 millilitres of water. What does that look like? Just slightly more than a pint of water. And willow is considered to be around 60–65% moisture content. So pretty much this log is going to have slightly more than 2 pints of water. I find it astonishing that there can be that much moisture in a log. Incredible. Anyways, one of the arguments against eucalyptus as constructional timber here in Ireland early on and elsewhere, I would assume, is that it splits really easily. And what I'm noticing is, yes, if you dry eucalyptus really quickly, then it will split. As in this piece of eucalyptus, which I dried out in the polytunnel, and yeah, it's split. Absolutely, it's split. But then this piece, which was dried out much more slowly, hasn't split at all. And this piece of willow is already splitting after 3 weeks. And so there you have it. You dry out timber really quickly, it will split. As I say, 3 weeks since I cut back these willow, and I'm just astonished at how fast they've sprouted fresh growth. All of them coming back really strongly. Though this is gunny eye that I cut back perhaps a couple of weeks ago, and as you can see, that's sprouting as well. Not quite as prolific as the willow or Eucalyptus viminialis. These did take a bit of a beating from the frosts. Not so much the frosts, but the freezing fog that accompanied it. But as you can see, they are sprouting, just every single one of them, with fresh new growth. So there's another one from lower down, though this tree is healthy. And this one at the end as well, covered in new growth. So Viminialis is definitely one eucalypt that can easily be coppiced. So I've been planting more of them. I've had this plan for a few weeks as well. So yeah, next year, here's another one, look, just covered in new growth. So all the way down here, perhaps another 20 Eucalyptus viminialis. Viminialis do suffer from wind burn, though this year we haven't had any severe cold winter gales, and this is my best one, and it's thriving. It's put on more top growth this year than previous. The frost didn't really affect this one. It's very well established, maturing nicely. On the bank here, the ditch as they call them in Ireland, I've been planting Rodwayi, and Rodwayi are just incredibly tough and resilient. So probably planted another 30–40 trees on the bank here, and I had a few losses on the bank here, and I've been filling them in. Though generally these are establishing now. Hoping next year these will start to look sort of 2 meters tall and thicker in the trunks, in the stems. It's turf harvesting time, or yeah, they're drawing it in and stacking it in their sheds for winter fuel at the moment. And I totally get that turf peat is available, it's cheap, relatively cheap, and it's a tradition, and it's gone on for generations, so it's hard to break that tradition. However, it's climatically very destructive. It releases a lot of stored CO2 into the atmosphere. Eucalyptus rodwayi are a swamp gum, grown commercially for firewood. They'll do well in the wetter, stormier areas of Ireland. Very tough and resilient, stood up to the -7 frosts here with ease. They can be coppiced. I haven't managed to coppice any yet, but in terms of their resilience, I'm hoping they're going to be like the willow, prolific once they're coppiced. One of the points I'm trying to get across is there are alternatives to burning turf, to harvesting turf. I said turf's cheap in inverted commas. I've turned, stacked and drawn in turf, and if you were to give me a choice between doing that or cutting down eucalyptus and chopping that up for firewood, there's no comparison. I would go for eucalyptus every single time, and eucalyptus burns as a fuel. It's just far superior, and whereas turf, another factor in your time equation that you've got to factor in with turf, is it leaves a lot of fine dust in the grate every morning after you've had a fire, whereas eucalyptus, you might need to clean out the pan every 3 or 4 days. With turf, it's every morning. Anyways, I've got a couple of patches still to fill in. This one with night ends, which are growing nicely, though I reckon it's probably going to be perhaps even January before these are fully ready for planting. These are globulus, and I'll show you the patch that I'm going to fill in with globulus shortly. And these were plugged up at the very same time as those night ends, 26th of June. So it's now just, well, a month later, 31, 32 days later, and globulus are just amazing. They're just so fast growing. So where Storm Baron knocked out a few of the Viminialis, I'm going to be replacing with globulus, and I said in a previous video the Viminialis will do better with a bit of shelter. I don't think the globulus will be that much affected by wind burn. Certainly the night ends stand up to the wind, the gales, a lot better than the Viminialis. So the Viminialis I've planted here, they'll get a bit of shelter from the globulus, which I'm going to plant where Storm Bara blew over the Viminialis. One of the benefits of globulus in comparison with night ends, they're both the same family, is you can coppice globulus and they grow faster. However, the Achilles heel with globulus is they're not as frost tolerant, so perhaps -5's about their limit, and not for a prolonged period of time like we had at the end of 2022 there, where it was -7 for around 2 weeks, and on top of that freezing fog was really what got to everything here. Though as you can see, most of my plantation has survived and is thriving. So in amongst here, perhaps room for 4 there, and might manage 1 in there, get the bush cutter out again and take that back, and another half a dozen here of globulus. And I am betting that we won't get that sort of -6 extreme cold for a prolonged period of time for the next few years anyway, and the globulus will get a chance to mature and become stronger, just in the same way that this Viminialis has. It's fabulous. It's 5 years old and it's really starting to be chunky. Fantastic tree. I looked back at one of the earliest videos I posted on this channel from about 4 years ago, when I just planted these eucalyptus, and the transformation in this area is astounding. It really does feel like a mini forest now. Any losses or gaps or weak trees that I have in this area, which used to be the old farm track, I'm filling in with Ernagera at the moment. So I haven't had that many losses, to be honest, considering how badly planted these were and the tough conditions, strong winds, droughts that they've had to put up with. I'm really chuffed. It's really worked out. These are Viminialis, more Viminialis coming back, coppicing nicely. So yeah, definitely a fan of Viminialis. Got good stock of Viminialis and Rodwayi and Arnigera. Don't have any stock of Gunnii, though Glossines and Arnigera would be good choices to swap, to substitute for Gunnii. This is a Gunnii and it's just fantastic. Love it to bits. I took some photos of the bark a week or so ago when it was just really at its most vivid, but it's just gorgeous. Look at the colours on it, and it's thickened up and become a really strong tree. For the ornamentalists amongst you, these are the snow gums, passiflora and coccifera, and just gorgeous. Everybody who sees these wants one, and I am growing them. I'll have good stock towards the end of the year. It's been a long video. If you've made it this far, fair play to you. Good luck.